Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 301 Club, where we give you the
Welcome.
411 on building wealth in your 20s. And today we have a special guest who wrote on the board behind us. So remember to like and subscribe to the 301 Club.
Yes, today we have our real estate agent on today, and his name is Aziz, and I want to welcome him today and show some appreciation because you did help us through the process of getting this house. And if you could get it into a little bit of the agency, and it's like the company that you work for. And it's funny because I think the name is like kind of like a double entendre sort of deal. It's like the agency, but that's also the name of their company. So how'd you get started there? If you want to start from the beginning.
Well, first, I appreciate you guys bringing me along and having me as a guest. It's really nice.
Thank you.
But it's funny. I always talk to people. I'm like, yo, I work for the agency. They're like, the first thing is, what agency? And you're like, it's the agency, right? But it's a global luxury real estate brand built by Mauricio in Hollywood, West Coast, Beverly Hills. And we've just been opening offices all over the globe. We have some overseas in Amsterdam, in Europe. We're obviously spreading all across the U.S. I personally work for the agency DC, managed by or owned by the managing partner, Alex Martinez, which is our broker. Awesome. I've been in real estate for 3 years now. Excuse me. I started doing real estate marketing first, doing photos and production, kind of advertisement and stuff like that, and then just got my license and branched my way through, and here we are.
Awesome.
Yeah, totally. I mean, for all the prospective realtors watching, I know sometimes you can mix real estate investing with being a realtor. So to ask you specifically, how did you choose the agency after you got your license, and what made you settle with them?
It's a very good question. So it's, when you get your license, the process, and you get approached by a bunch of different brokerages, different people trying to reach out and say, hey, join our brokerage, because essentially you provide a service, right? And then you can benefit the brokerage by bringing in money, right? If you have good clientele, if you really know what you're doing, you make the brokerage money, everyone's happy, right? So what I was really looking for is like a mentorship, somewhere where I can have a team type of setting where everyone wasn't in competition with each other, right? So where I can, go knock on my neighbor's door as a colleague. Obviously, he's a licensed agent too in the same jurisdiction as I, but I can ask him a contract question or, a question about a certain case or a file, and get his best and honest answer as if he was going through it. Excuse me. So, I really, I went there, interviewed. I had a buddy who worked there, and he kind of helped me throughout the entire process when I was getting my license, just telling me things to look out for, telling me things that I want, telling me, I could have a much bigger commission somewhere else or have a team support setting. And it's really just how you want to build yourself, right? So I went there once and I was sold.
Sweet. Yeah, culture is a huge thing when joining a company, and especially when you invest in real estate, you can do it with a company or outside of a company. So putting a realtor on top of investing in real estate is a great equation for wealth building. So just so the viewers know, I'm pretty sure that in the state of Maryland, the realtor is paid a commission-based pay, and it comes from the seller specifically. So, and I think that you said that there can be competition amongst the other people because they're trying to maybe grab a commission or this way or that way. But in your agency, it seems like that everyone's getting along, and that's kind of what leads into what makes it a very successful company. And I think that you guys had success because you guys are, specifically being in Maryland, you specifically also have grown up in this area, and so that was kind of the reason that we chose to lean on you for our house buying process, specifically in the Montgomery Village. Shout out 20886. And can you go into how living in the area where you are a realtor can help you with showing houses, and then maybe if you want to get into your real estate experience beyond that,
right, in Maryland,
it's your choice. We'd love to know.
It definitely helps out. It's not even like showing a property in a sense. It's more of like showing your backyard, just showing your life experiences, right? And then just trying to project them onto your clients. Really, as a realtor, everything is relationship based, right? And just connecting and understanding what your clients are looking for. I align my goals with your goals. And then from there, we join a team, and then we become one, and we go get it, right? So when it's in my backyard, somewhere that I grew up in, it's almost not like I'm learning a new area. I'm just kind of sharing my experiences with you,
Yeah.
right? So it makes it really, simple in that aspect. Like, you can kind of tell them what to look out for. You can share real world experience, things that you went through.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I honestly, and still living in the area, I love showing in Montgomery Village because it's, I've driven, 40, 50 miles to show 2-3 properties and then have to go back home. It's not fun, right?
Wow.
But, you drive down the street, show property somewhere that you're familiar with, endless talking points. Like, trust me, every realtor is going to love that.
Yeah, I mean, I can even piggyback off of that from our experience. When we tried to look for a property in Baltimore, it was such a far drive. We didn't know the area too much. We didn't really know if that guy knew the area because we couldn't tell. We couldn't, disprove him or approve of his reasoning for why we should buy this house here.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But Aziz was really good at telling us, hey, this property is, will be above appraisal value. It'll go up in value, things like that. Like, those are some definitely some Easter eggs that we got because I think, you living here and seeing the area develop over time, which we've talked about in the past episodes. So it was great to hear your perspective on how working in the area and growing up in the area can align with each other.
And agents, like, unless you just move all over the place, right? You essentially are going to grow up in one or two areas for some period of time. So it's really up to the agent to get familiar with other areas and really learn, about locations, right? Once you grasp the idea of locations, what's in the location, what you get from the location, the market value in that location, then you kind of get the ball rolling from there.
Yeah, no, I mean, I could totally also vouch for his wisdom, noting that he knew that there was a new development of a biopharmacy warehouse happening over there, and that the shopping center was getting refurbished around this area. So that's all going to increase the value of your home. And he knew all about the good schools. So yeah, creating that connection with your realtors is really imperative. With your buyer, him being a buyer's agent. So we know that an agent can also be a seller and a buyer.
So how does
agent.
that work if you'd like to, get into that, what it takes to be, or just like in general what the difference is, and if you can be both, a buyer and a seller's agent?
Yikes. So you can represent both. Well, there's a thing called dual agency, right? So if I was listing a property, I was listing 21 Docena Court. This was my listing. And say that you own the property and I'm representing you as my seller. And then we have an open house and John comes through. Say, hey, I love this property. I want to buy it. So, John, do you have an agent? John says, no, I don't have an agent. I said, well, John, I disclosed that I am the listing agent.
Right.
And I can imply, that I can help him out and immediately let him know of dual agency, my responsibility for, being a dual agent. Let him know that I represent him at the same time. If he elects to choose me,
All right.
then there's a few forms that, the buyer and the seller sign that just lets both parties know that I'm representing both parties in the transaction. Is it ideal? Not all the time, right? Sometimes it can be, every real estate situation is different. Per house is going to be different.
Definitely.
Yep.
So, that's one side of it, of dual agency.
Right.
And then, as a listing agent, you just, represent the seller in the transaction. Obviously, the transaction on your side goes a little bit different, of things to look out for, appraisal dates, contingencies and all that stuff, offer terms. So it's pretty much the same build as a realtor if you're representing a buyer or if you're representing a seller.
Right.
It's just that for that month when you're in contract or when you're getting the house ready, because sometimes it takes a long time to get the property ready to sell, right?
Wow.
And those are the games. It's more of a relationship for on that aspect. Well, I take that back because I've had a buyer client that I've shown about 20 properties to, and I got to know his daughter like it was my child,
Wow.
right? So you build relationships in every situation that you're in. But the sellers, it can be a little longer. It could be maybe 6-7 months that you're working with the seller, depending on the property condition, if they have a bunch of stuff in there, stuff like that.
Right. That's interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, it's perfect you touched on contingencies because we've previously talked about building a team. That's kind of the way that you're going to need to approach buying a house. And we think our strongest player was you because you had knowledge to give us because you were on our side throughout the entire process. And not to say that the lender is not on your side or anyone else is looking out for you, but maybe so. Like in our experience, you gave us a little bit more information specifically on an appraisal contingency, which I think helped us with a little backdoor finesse to get our offer approved because we were dealing with different offers at the time and it was pretty competitive. So we talked about the appraisal contingency and the escalation clause in the previous episode. So we had a question for you. Which one holds more weight when it comes to beating out other offers, the escalation clause or the appraisal contingency, or removing that contingency, or are they both equally weighted?
Well, I appreciate the compliment. As far as saying that I was, the best on the team, that's awesome. But no, I was just doing my job, as I like to say all the time to my clients come first. I'm the GPS, you guys are the driver, right? So whatever you're trying to get to, I'm going to tell you the route to get there. And if you want to go straight, I'm going to reroute myself, 10 miles down the road. It may be the longer route, right? But it's okay because you're the driver, cool. Right?
Yeah.
So I really appreciate that. As far as the offer terms and the difference of an appraisal gap, having an appraisal gap clause or an escalation clause, right?
Yeah.
Every situation is different.
Right.
So I can't say one outweighs the other more than
It depends
one.
on the scenario.
Exactly. It depends on the scenario, right? Location is a big thing, right? So
Right. Well, I guess for this case, like there was a lot of offers already on this property, so there was like things that we had to do to compete, and that kind of goes into like the next thing I was going to bring up was just like how do you I guess for when it comes to these contingencies and trying to make an offer, I know it's case by case basis, but for the most part, if someone's coming to you with no information at all, do you offer, like, I know you said you're working with them one-on-one, you're trying to you're on their team, you're trying to do what they're trying to get out of trying to buy a property and whatnot. So when it comes to every scenario, you kind of work with them and give them the best option. Like, let's say they don't know anything about escalation clause or contingencies. How do you kind of maneuver that, or do you already know that?
Well, first you got to really get to know your client, right? And really build that trust.
Right.
And absolutely get locked in.
Right.
Right. Because the appraisal gap only comes if the buyers have liquid funds to support that appraisal gap. Right. And that's a conversation that you really have to have with your buyer and your client. And that client is only going to disclose that to you. Well, he should tell you off the rip, right? Because you guys should be understanding that it's one team. Right. But he's only going to disclose that to you if he really trusts you.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
So if you don't trust somebody, or you're going to say, hey, I got an extra $15,000 to spend, and you think that realtor is going to go jack up the price extra $15,000, one, to make his commission higher, or two, I guess that's the main goal, to make his commission higher, right? Right. But you have to understand and trust that your realtor is going to look out for your best interests and try to keep that payment, your monthly payment, your principal, and your loan that you're taking out as low as possible. Yep. Right. So that way we can get equity on the home.
100%.
So
that's kind of what happened.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I'm glad you gave it from your perspective, because we've talked about this previously from our perspective, but hearing it from you, it's definitely hits a little bit deeper with some more pull to continue to focus on your realtor and choosing, and we talked about that's a super important part of the puzzle, is getting a realtor you can trust, and it's great to hear from your perspective all of that. So 301 Club is back, the gang's all here, we're filled up, and we're ready to talk showcasing the house from the realtor's perspective. So the reason we want to talk about this with you, Aziz, is because when we first started this process, it was all new to us. Like, this is our first time buying a home, even looking into homes, and we had no idea what to look at specifically in the home. And I remember specifically one time you mentioned the deck at Michael Court could have been improved, for example, and it would increase the value of the house. It aligns perfectly with our goals. So there's many different things that you can look from an objective standpoint and a subjective standpoint to decide if you want to buy this house. Like, for us, I think objectively we looked at, how long are the schools in the area, but a subjective thing that maybe that you introduced to us was like, how long is it on the market for? That might depend on if we can put the listing offer in or offer below, etc. But even more so than the offer, could you mention any physical attributes that you try to point out to buyers when you're showcasing a house? Like, what are the main ones? And that'd be great to know.
Yeah, so obviously you want to make sure that there's no big ticket items, right? Water, electric, plumbing, all that stuff, roofing, insulation. And there's certain things that you're not going to be able to see. We don't have x-ray vision. We don't have a hammer with us and knock down the wall and check if everything's right? But there is, eye-catching things that you can just tell when you're walking through the house. Some aside from the cosmetics, I mean paint, carpet, little scuffs and scrapes and stuff like that. That's cosmetic stuff that can be, fixed up. What you want to look for is like the roof, the siding, the windows, right? If the windows are in good condition, that's a big thing because.
Yeah, because I just don't even interrupt, but I do remember that one of the places that we saw, I don't know if you were with us, but it was not too far from here. I think it was in Germantown. But the windows were like old, and you could tell, and compared to like the windows here.
I think you might be talking about Diamond Ave or something about that, right? Where he didn't, the seller wasn't responding, and we kind of already arrived at that house, and we could tell just from looking at the outside that it wasn't going to be what we wanted to buy.
Yeah. No, it was with I forget the name. But I'm just what I'm trying to say is, like, long story short, is like the windows is what, like, it plays a big role.
I mean, basically, a key point is you want to actually physically visit these properties. You don't want to just look at the photos on Zillow.
Yeah, it's not gonna do it.
You definitely don't look at the photos.
Yeah.
Being someone who used to do photos, like, I can tell you,
you can finesse it. I'm sure
we do finesse it.
Yeah,
it's an automatic finesse. You make the photos wider, make the room look bigger. You clean up the windows and stuff like that. But the windows could be a big thing with your electric and your every month expenses, right? Because if you have poor windows and it's allowing heat to come in during the wintertime or the summertime, and then allowing heat to escape during the wintertime,
right,
your bill, your Pepco bill is just going to be up, right? Your electricity is just going to be pumping and pumping and pumping.
Yeah.
So windows are a big thing that I point out. Obviously, you would look in the corners, on the exterior, close to the exterior on the inside, if you notice any water damage or anything like that. Small stuff to point out. Well, not small, but those are the things you want to kind of see when you're going through the home. Most people will see a house and say, "Oh, I don't like this." Well, if that can be changed, let's look past it, right? Let's look at the bones and the need of the house. It depends on, it's case to case though, right? So it depends on if someone's looking in and they just had a baby, they want to turnkey property, they want to, turn the key, move in, and good, right? If someone's a contractor themselves and they're willing to put in a little work into the home, so it's understanding the buyer's needs and what they want. But as a realtor, like, that's what we look at.
Sweet. Yeah, and speaking off of electricity and some big ticket items, something that we saw when we were looking at other homes from an outside perspective, because actually you can just go up to a home and look at it from the outside. There's nothing wrong with that. It's, public information, but getting inside, you're going to need access through a realtor. But some things you can see from the outside are solar panels. So I wanted to have your opinion on, if you see a house with solar panels, what should you be thinking as a buyer? What do you tell your buyers, for example, what kind of things you need to know about solar panels? Are they a good thing, bad thing? Is it going to be expensive, do you think?
So I'm not too like familiar with the solar panels just yet, right?
Okay.
But what I can tell you is the first thing I would do is I would talk to the listing agent and see if the solar panels convey, how they convey, what's the month to month, like if they already paid off, or like, what's the deal with them, right? Because most of the time solar panel is going to have an extra something.
Yeah.
Right? That's most likely going to either have to convey with the property or have to be split 50-50 between the buyer and the seller.
Yep.
So that'd be the first thing that I would bring up. I'd bring that up to my client immediately and just let them know, like, hey, I don't know much about this, but I'll look into it. I'll call the listing agent and see, what the deal is, right? But yeah, solar panels, I've heard that they're great personally,
Right.
through clients who've had them. And people who are shopping around, obviously you have general conversations. So I don't have solar panels, right? But I heard they're great. If I had a big property and single family home, I probably would look to invest and find out the benefit of them and do my research extensively.
Right.
Yeah,
I think
figure it out.
Right. I think we came across one property that had solar panels. And to touch base, like full circle, and we were talking about earlier, the other house with the windows, that was the place that had rust on it and the vents. And that was the one that Moose mentioned was like, maybe not this one. But I also noticed the windows were like a little beat up and they're older than the ones they have here. You could tell just by looking at it from the inside. But I think it's important to like keep these things in mind. I think the place that had the solar panels, like when we were going through the houses trying to pick which ones were like our top 3, I think their countertops and the way I don't know if you remember this when we went in, their countertops for their kitchen, they put tiles that belonged to the floor. Yeah, so that was like a big red flag, and I was like, obviously the contractor didn't do a good job. He didn't know what tiles to use for the countertop versus what's on the ground, but we noticed that, and so like I think, it's good to keep in mind that the panels bring maybe benefits, but it's also like you got to look at the house as a whole. And like really take a look at everything and if it's worth it, if it's not. We ended up passing on. I don't even think we considered it.
No, yeah, I mean that's a good example of why we would pass on a property and from a buyer perspective. And I think another thing that we did is we noticed something else about Michael Court.
Yeah, that was another area. So like that was one of the other spots that we considered maybe getting. But the unfortunate thing, I don't know if I don't think we mentioned it to you, but I did see roaches there when we did the tour, and I was like,
oh, really?
Yeah, I did. Like when I went into the one room with. They had plastic on the carpets. They were trying to protect it, I'm sure. But I did notice like a roach like running around, and I was like, "Wow, that's."
Yeah, I mean, again, this is things.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I didn't want to kill it. I didn't want to do anything about it because I was like, "That's not my business." But,
but exactly, these are things you won't know until you actually go into the house.
Yeah,
so, highly recommend going into the actual house physically yourself with your realtor, though. And yeah,
I didn't know that, so that's something you definitely should have pointed out.
I should have, yeah,
right then and there.
That was like something that for me was like, this is probably a property I'm not really gonna consider as like a definitive top 3 or whatever.
Yeah, and I think in hindsight we did realize that it was a mistake to not talk about that with our realtor, because we learned over time how much of a team player he was going to be for us and how much of an asset he was throughout time. And so. Another reason to pick a really good realtor to start this journey of building wealth.
Trust them and build a relationship.
Yeah. It's a long-term journey, so it starts somewhere. So so another thing that you can also see from public knowledge is HOA information. So specifically, condo versus a townhouse. And I know that you had a conversation with us one time about what the benefits are of a townhouse versus a condo. Specifically, you mentioned condo, you may not own the land, a part of the rest of the area, and also you can't really do many refurbishments. Like, it depends on what the HOA is allowing and what kind of paint you can use, these kind of things. So in your opinion, which one is a better investment or a buy for a first-time home buyer, a condo or a townhouse?
To be honest,
we would love to hear your perspective.
If you can qualify for a townhouse, get a townhouse. Simple as that.
No.
Right. And I think most realtors will agree with me. I think most potential buyers would agree with that, right? Because then you don't want the issues of noise and not having that privacy, someone above you or someone below you. If you have kids, you want that backyard or the front yard or the court or whatever it comes with. Typically, your HOA is going to be a lot cheaper than your condo fee,
Right.
which was going to require you to do a little more as a homeowner, which
Yeah.
is okay because
Right.
it's like you bought a house, you're an adult, you're living. Like, take out the trash. You know what I'm saying? Or
Yeah, right.
mow your lawn.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
so don't pay $400 or $500 a month
Right.
living in a condo, an apartment style place.
Right.
Just to have those benefits. Most people, if you can't qualify, it's a great starter thing.
Exactly.
I'm not going to deter it. I've sold a bunch of condos. I'm not going to deter anyone away from a condo.
Right.
It's a
Right.
great starter investment. It's a great way to build credit, great way to build wealth. You can rent it out long term.
Right.
So there's benefits to that too. But I would simply say, if you can qualify for a townhouse, get a townhouse. I have one client who, when I met him, we were looking at 1-bedroom, 1-bath condos in Silver Spring. And I just kept working with him, working with his budget, working with the lender. And now we're under contract for, a 3-story townhouse. Right. And this person has a wife and a daughter.
Oh, wow.
Right. So can you just imagine in 2-3 years living in a condo, that daughter grows up, they run out of space. And now they're looking to buy again. So now that purchase is good for the next 5, 7, hopefully to the next 10 years. Right. So, it's easy to run out of space in a condo. So I would prefer a townhouse.
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
And
It sounds like it just depends on like their budget, working with them, understanding what their needs, understanding their budget. If they're willing to open up to you and let you know what they can work with. And,
Again, it's about trust. Like, he
Yes.
trusted me. He trusted the process. And I tell him to this day, like, do you remember that we were looking at apartments that were
Wow.
like, 2-bedroom, 1-bath apartments. Now you got a basement. We just missed out on the garage, but now you have a
future.
basement in the backyard and the front yard and 2 parking spaces.
yeah, and we've talked about previously to already have if you're at the point where you're going to put an offer on a house, kind of already have what you would require that you need to have a part of the house. Like, for an example, a garage you could do without. Then maybe you can talk. You would need to talk with your realtor about that, and he would totally give you a bunch of listings about what you really need, and maybe some things you want, and maybe some things that. Well, in our experience, we tried to go for houses out of our budget a little bit, and I know that we had a little talk about this at
we got
Smoothie
Shop
Cafe.
Happy, as you
Yeah,
said.
and so
And I like that you
we
said
wanted to
that
get into
'cause-
that about because that was, I think, a big turning point also is to us trusting you. And so what was going through your mind when you decided to go take us to the smoothie shop, and we were trying to look at all these different houses that were out of our budget? What was going through your mind at that point?
It's like I said, right? I could have easily said, heck yeah, let's do it.
Exactly.
$500K.
Yeah.
Type in my commission.
Exactly.
That looks nice, right? Right. But at some point, you got to take, the business side of it. We'll keep it business, but you got to take I guess the selfishness of it out of it, right? And understand that this is my career, and I'm in a career of helping people, of connecting, selling homes, obviously selling real estate, and making money, right? Mm-hmm. But the first thing is connecting with my clients and protecting my clients, and providing a service and a duty to you guys that it's like that you would give to your friend.
Yeah.
Right. So if your friend is balling on a budget, you're like, bro, let's bring it back down. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
let's do something that makes sense for the future. You're not right now, right?
Yeah.
So, I didn't really have no like, I would say, ill will intentions. Exactly. Like, let me take these guys to Smoothie King and try to butter them up or anything like that. Right. It was more of just looking at it as a friend type of deal. Like, we have some time in between going to look at properties. That's like, it's pretty warm out. Let's go, grab a bite to eat. Let's go get a smoothie or something. I mean, I really like Smoothie King.
Shout out Smoothie King, man.
Shout out Smoothie King for sure. So, I mean, but yeah, and it was just genuine conversation, man, and just connecting and being real, bro. Like, it's no sugar to any of that.
Yeah, so I mean, that's definitely was our experience. So, like, from your perspective, do you see a lot of shop happy, or okay, when you have seen a person who's getting shop happy, how is that situation gone for them? Do they get maybe overwhelmed and then quit and stop because they've overreached their budget, which we've mentioned you should have your budget established pretty much after, during your pre-approval process. So if these people are starting to continue to increase, have you had any experience with that, or what's a recommendation from you to stick with your budget when you start feeling shop happy?
Well, I'll rewind a little bit back to your guys' case.
Okay.
Now, right. As a realtor, you always want to mention to your clients to work with your preferred lenders.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Which is big, right? And we
learned that the hard way.
Most buyers think that this guy's just trying to sell us on another loan, or trying to sell us on another company, right? Or he's obligated to use my preferred lender or something like that, right? But what that does is now my guy tells me your budget. Mm-hmm. Now I know your budget, probably better than you know your budget, right?
Yeah.
And as your realtor, now I know what to look for. So honestly, not to go back, but
we made a mistake.
No, we did.
We probably could have had a bigger budget.
Yeah.
Than what we settled on.
Perfect.
Which is okay, right?
Yeah.
Right? But that, goes back to the trust and everyone aligning with the same goals, right? So when I have a client who's not really, I have a bunch of clients who are not pre-approved who want to look at properties all day.
Interesting.
Right? I'll probably show you one or two, but after that, I need you to speak with the lender. I need you to have a pre-approval, because now we're just window shopping, right?
Exactly.
By the time you like the property, I show you tons of properties, you find one you like. By the time you go get approved, that property's gone, it's off the market, right? Mm-hmm. So let's work with your lender early on in the process. Get your pre-approval done. Step on that lender's neck and say, hey, send this pre-approval to underwriting immediately. Get this fully underwritten, so now we have a stronger offer to go if it's a multiple offer situation, right? We come in, I call a listing agent, say, hey, our offer is fully underwritten, waive the appraisal contingency could be tomorrow. We're not going to wait. The sellers don't have nothing to worry about. The money is there. It's guaranteed, right? So that's when the agent, buyers, lender, all aligned, they're all on the same page, right? So that's how that goes in that aspect. Now, if you don't have a pre-approval or anything, I'm not going to show you a bunch of properties, right? If I'm working with a lender and I know your budget, I'm going to say, okay, well, I have a guy who wants a $700,000 home for $520. So he wants a $700,000 home because he wants all the bells and whistles, basement, walkout, everything, right? With a $5,000 or $500,000 budget. And I have been shown this client properties in about a week or two, right? And it's just to say that it's like we can't find anything what you're looking for with your budget. So sometimes buyers have to find out what their budget is, what they want to spend monthly, because he's a lawyer, right? Not to get in depth to the client, but he's a lawyer. He makes really good money. He can afford a $700,000 home,
right?
But he doesn't want a $700,000 payment, right?
Monthly
so
payment, yep.
It's like, what do you want your monthly payment? Like, what are you comfortable paying a month where you can still dish some to savings? Okay, that's your number. Okay, now you take that to the lender. What property, with property taxes, what location, what is our budget with this monthly payment? How far can we stretch this? He gives me a number to work with. Now I'm searching for properties. What are your needs? Garage, basement, 3 bedrooms, 4 baths, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm seeing if I can find that within that budget, right? And if I can't, now we're looking at a budget. Mm-hmm. And that's just how that process works. So, it happens all the time that people are looking out of their budget or want something out of their budget. So if the buyer or that potential client doesn't understand or trust their realtor to find something or even have a real estate vision, of buying something in a little, in better condition and putting money into it and fixing it up if it's in the right location and meets all your needs. So, like I said, all case by case basis, and but to go back to your initial question, it happens all the time, and you just handle it with the pre-approval with the lender. You just let them know, like, hey, what do you want to pay a month, right? If you're looking at a budget, okay, well, are you comfortable with $5,000 a month as a mortgage? Absolutely not. Okay, well, let's bring it back down then, right? So, and then that typically solves that.
Yeah, for sure. And that goes kind of back to what we talked to a banker at PNC when we first try to get our foot in the door about the process of buying a house. And the banker, she wasn't even a loan officer, but she was like, yo, your best bet is to get a pre-approval and do that so that, you have something of weight, so that when you go talk to your real estate agent, you can tell them, like, this is what we're working with. We got a pre-approval for this amount. And so, she kind of gave us that little tidbit of information to move that way. So when we were talking to our real estate agents and we were looking for one, we were like, okay, it'd probably be a good idea to have a pre-approval already, set in stone. So that's kind of how we moved. So, I do hear you on that. I think it's important to have the budget in mind and get that pre-approval done out the way so that you already know what you're working with, your numbers, whatever it may be. And so you're not because I think that's what saved us. And obviously, I want to thank you for the information you gave us about a few different things, and the land under the condo thing with the land. That was a good one. I had no idea about that, but to circle back, it's know your budget, know what you're working with, and don't overextend yourself. Because when it came down to it, I think we were you know what, we did say we were only going to spend a certain amount, or rather we're looking for a property that was in a certain price range. And we did kind of start to look at places that were a little over the budget that we had in mind, or the price point we had in mind. So I think it's important to keep those things in mind.
Yeah, and definitely circling back to what he said about using the preferred lender, or if your realtor recommends a lender, because for our case we had the pre-approval because we were kind of privileged in the fact that we could get a pre-approval, but some people might not be able to, and because of your lower credit score, or again, if they're able to see your assets, they might make a decision off of that. So be careful about how much you're sharing to an unknown lender. But if you have a preferred lender, they might help you with these. There's certain programs out there that we didn't actually realize. You could, in the state of Maryland, you can get up to $10,000, from one of the bigger banks, usually like Bank of America, PNC, and we didn't know this until afterwards. And the specific situation was if you're buying it in an account that the bank already had owned, or it's in their portfolio, then for example, that's one of many different types of situations, which I think is not in the purview of this podcast here. But if you guys want to comment below and ask any questions about maybe what we did to secure our loan, especially with me in my position, it was with an inheritance. But as we continue going forwards, we have less capital, but there's more options, I think, out there, because I think the market is shifting a little bit towards the buyers more, which is kind of what I wanted to get to ask you in your experience. We talked with we had another agent off of Redfin, when we first started, and he was talking about how, I guess we were looking in June, and he said in January there was 30 offers coming out on houses, and now there's about 10. In June there was about 10, right? So can you speak on today's climate in September 2022, what it's looking like, buyer seller market?
There's definitely a shift. It's definitely I believe shifting towards a buyer's market. You're not seeing as many offers as you were before. When you notice when those banks are coming out with those, I think we talked about a little bit, those incentives to help people buy, those programs and stuff like that, trying to push the buyer's market, right? And you only use those as a buyer when it's not as competitive, right? In our case, we had 6 other offers, to land on this property, and there was certain things that we had to pull off of our offer terms just to be competitive, right? You're not really dealing with that as much right now. So that's the indication for us. Okay, maybe it's shifting towards buyer's market. It's not completely there because prices aren't at its lowest low and interest rates aren't at its lowest low, and that's where I'm convinced that it's a buyer's market, right? It's go buy.
Yeah. There's a
right?
lot of incentives,
Right.
maybe turning indicators showing that they're incentivizing people with not a lot of capital, maybe lower credit score. These are things that are moving in that direction right now. I agree. So it's great to hear your perspective.
And working with the lender, like, when you have that preferred lender, with whatever brokerage you decide to work with, that lender kind of just tell you, hey, Z's, like I had a few cases where it's I called the lender like, hey, I can't find this guy a house for this budget. Is there any room to go up? And he said, I'll call you back in an hour. Call us back in an hour. Yeah, we can go up another 100,000. Or he has the money. He'll qualify. It'll go up an extra 100,000. I'm looking for properties. I find a property. I send it to my client. Hey, I love this property. It's great, but I don't think I'm approved. Boom, already got you pre-approved for that amount. We're good to go. Let's go take a
Streamline the
look.
process.
Yeah, let's go take a look
Yep.
this weekend, right? But all that is like, okay, me and my lender are now working, right? So when you're dealing with, people who don't know each other, never really worked, aren't familiar with each other, it's more of a hiccup process because everyone is trying to protect their client, right? The lender's trying to protect you. I'm trying to protect you. Don't know that we're all on the same team.
Yeah, we're on the same team.
Yeah,
right?
like realistically, we're
Comes
all
down
on the
to
same
that.
team,
Yeah.
all watching out for the client. But it does sound like it streamlines the process when it comes to like working with all those things in hand. Because unfortunately, that's what it like breaks down to. You have to like talk to a title company, you have to talk to a real estate agency, and then you have to also talk to a loan officer. So, like, if you can streamline that process, from what we've learned, I think that's the best move, in my opinion, so that it's just smoother. Everybody knows they're on the same team. It's no like, oh, I'm trying to protect this, that, because at the end of the day, really, it's just like the home or the buyer, whoever's trying to get the property, like the person. That's like really what it comes down to, is being on their side and their team and working with them.
I mean, how many emails did you guys get like throughout the process when we were?
Oh
buying?
yeah, like hundreds. So I have
a bunch of
yeah.
Right.
That was I wouldn't say it was a stressful part of the situation, but I think having someone who can be responsive and also concise and truthful to you, for me, it didn't really matter how many emails, as long as I was getting that and seeing that from that person. But yeah, I got like probably like I look at my inbox right now and I try to find documents from the past, and yeah, it's
It's a
not
bunch.
happening. Like
So
gonna
it's
take me
better when it's all when
Yeah.
everyone's together and the agent says, hey, they're sending you this, sign that.
So I guess we'll just go ahead and close out. Aziz, thank you for being a part of this podcast. I want to thank
Absolutely.
you for, giving your time to us today. And, it's really for the people. I think a lot of people, just to cut it short, it's like we're out here to give information. So I want to thank everybody who's watching. If they have any questions, to leave a comment below. But hope someone, whoever it is out there, got something out of this, is more confident in buying a house, breaking down the walls.
Yeah, and reach out to me. I'd love to help you buy.
Yeah,
Let's
so-
get it going.
There
Or
you
sell.
go. If you're in Maryland and in the Montgomery County area or in DC, whatever it may be, I'm not
Yeah.
sure what your jurisdictions are, but
All of DMV,
Well,
baby.
There
go
you
ahead,
go.
Ask him. We get
there you go. You
for
said
the
it right there,
people.
All of
DMV.
DMV.
There you go.
DMV,
So if
man.
you're in the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia, for those that don't live in the DMV, contact Aziz. He's the guy.
Yeah, we'll put his information in the description.
100%.
But yeah,
Thanks
that's
for
where we're
watching,
at.
guys.
Thanks.
Appreciate it. We're out.